Hello, Archie Dunlop here with Talking Astrology with Archie. In this brief video, I'm going to be looking at the week starting on Monday, December the 16th, 2024. So I'm just going to do an overview, look at some of the main events happening this week, and then I want to talk a little bit about Pluto. I have talked about Pluto over the last week, and I thought I would look at Pluto in terms of the fact that it is moving through Aquarius, and Aquarius is opposition Leo, and perhaps that's something we tend to forget. And Leo is a sign of kingship. And so what does it mean for Pluto to be moving through Aquarius in terms of kings and presidents, and is this something that we should be aware of? Well, not just kings and presidents, people who take themselves seriously, authority figures, people in control, those in charge. Perhaps there are some questions we should be asking here. And when I've looked at Pluto, I'm going to look at the week from the perspective of the I Ching. I'm just going to do a forecast for the week. I'm going to look at the week from a perspective of generally what's happening. When I'm going to look at money, then career, and then relationships. Just a reminder, when I do the I Ching, it is just optional. It only relates to those who actually watch the section of a video relating to the I Ching. So if you don't want your I Ching read, then just don't watch the last part of the video where I cover the I Ching. So let's look at what's happening this week. As always, I have to ask, if you like this video, please indicate that you like it by pressing the like button wherever that might be. And if you're not subscribed, I would of course be very happy if you were to subscribe. Anyway, so let's look at what's happening this week. So here is the position of the planets as the week starts, midnight on Monday. I've set this for New York. Now, right at the beginning of a week, Mercury goes stationary direct. So, that is an important event. Last few weeks, Mercury's been going retrograde. Many of us have been feeling the consequences of Mercury retrograde. Things just haven't gone to plan. Things haven't gone right. There have been delays. There's been confusion. And matters haven't been helped by the fact that Mercury, the planet of communication, is weakly placed. It's in Sagittarius, in its detriment. At the same time, it's quite close to the sun. It has been quite close to the sun. Has been combust, and so Mercury has been a bit messed up. Okay, Mercury has been in what is in mutual reception to Jupiter, so that is a mitigator, because Mercury is in Sagittarius, Jupiter is in Sagittarius, Jupiter's in Gemini, so Mercury and Jupiter are in each other's signs. So that has given Mercury some strength, but still, the last few weeks, it perhaps has been a bit unsettling. But now with Mercury direct at the beginning of the week, also we have just got the after effects of the full moon. And I know that the moon, beginning of the week, New York time, is in early Cancer, but still, we can feel on certainly the beginning of the week the fact that we're just coming out of a full moon. And the moon, if you've got a cloudless sky, you can see that the moon is bright. And at the same time, we have a full moon with Mercury going stationary direct. So two things coming together at the beginning of a week, and that actually might cause a certain amount of instability. Things might be sort of upside down. It's as if we've got two trends coming together, two independent trends, but they are coming together, and so there might be a certain amount of difficulty at the beginning of a week, simply because we don't understand what's going on, and it's difficult to make a decision because everything is very much up in the air. But I do think that as the week progresses, things might get easier, though we shouldn't forget that the Sun is starting to make a square to Neptune. So the Sun starts the week off at 24 Sagittarius, but then it's just moving to a square of Neptune. Now, that square to Neptune I will be looking at in greater detail in a few days' time. That's when I look at what's going on Wednesday. But Sun square Neptune can be a time of confusion and difficulty and weakness, because Sun is a strong masculine force, but it's square Neptune, so it's difficult to kind of see things through, and that might be hard, or we might get confused, or we might just misunderstand the signals. So that could be a problem. Then on Friday the 20th, we have got Venus trine Jupiter. So we've got Venus in Aquarius trine Jupiter in Gemini. And that is actually quite a fortunate aspect. Venus and Jupiter, the benefics. Jupiter the greater benefic, Venus the lesser benefic. They're in trine with one another. So there may be a sense of happiness and optimism that things are finally coming together, and we might enjoy people's company. And this Venus trine Jupiter is in air signs, so it's not too serious, and there's a certain sort of light-heartedness to the whole thing. Then Saturday the 21st, we have the winter solstice. At least in the northern hemisphere it's a winter solstice. The shortest day. Of course, in the southern hemisphere it's the longest day, and that is by definition when the Sun moves into Capricorn. So everything very much changes, and the Capricorn season is upon us, and it is a gateway. It is a gateway, if you like, for the sort of whole power of the universe. Sort of cosmic spiritual power is imprinted on the earth at the precise moment of the solstice. London time, I think that's at 9:20 in the morning on Saturday the 21st. So let's get this right. Friday the 20th, we've got Venus trine Jupiter. Then Saturday the 21st, we have got the Sun moving into Capricorn, and I will be looking at the winter solstice in greater detail towards the end of the week. And now I just want to say a few words about Pluto. I have been talking about Pluto. Pluto's been in Aquarius for the last month. And you can see this week that Pluto's at 0 degrees 36 Aquarius. And we would certainly expect things to change with Pluto moving into Aquarius. And I've sort of already suggested some ways in which it might work. It is about revolution and control, trying to overthrow something, but at the same time being very aware of what is controlling us. And Pluto in Aquarius might encourage governments to really take firm control. Even revolutionary governments, it all seems nice to have a revolution, but once a revolution has happened, those in charge of a revolution, they want to change things. They want to create things their own way. And we saw this the last time Pluto was in Aquarius. In the United States, you got rid of the British, and then you wanted to create your own government, a new government, something very modern. That's Pluto in Aquarius. Something very controlling, actually. Nice, neat division of powers, and perhaps borrowing from the Romans a bit, but it was a new way of looking at things with a constitution and the government wanting to be in control. And revolutionary governments are just as much desirous of being in control than the old system from kings and queens and so forth. And so that is one aspect of Pluto in Aquarius. But I do think it's interesting that Pluto in Aquarius, it's now in the opposite sign to Leo. Leo is obviously the planet of the individual. It's the planet of the king, in a way. Leo is the king. The sun is at its strongest when it's in Leo, because the sun rules Leo. The sun is at its weakest in Aquarius, because the sun is in its detriment in Aquarius. And so when you've got Pluto moving into Leo, I think that it may often be a time when those in control are under pressure, presidents and kings. And I suppose if we're talking about the American Revolution, I suppose the person the Americans really were concerned about was the king, King George III, who was a sort of nominal sort of ruler of the British Empire. And with Pluto moving into Aquarius, he was perhaps had to be overthrown. Oh, well, he wasn't overthrown in the UK, but he was certainly overthrown in the US. And so here's King George III's chart. So King George III was born on June the 4th, 1738, and you can see that he had Leo rising. And so from an American perspective, Pluto moved into Aquarius in the middle of the War of Independence. At the beginning of the War of Independence, Pluto was in Capricorn. By the end, it was in Aquarius. And so you could say that Pluto opposition King George's ascendant, Pluto crossing his descendant. I mean, assuming we've got the right time of birth for him, I think that's quite possible. He's the king, King George III. Kings tend to have their times recorded. So Pluto crossing his descendant, represents his enemies. In the case of the United States, that would be the colonists. And Pluto moving through Aquarius, it had a negative influence on other kings. For example, King Louis XVI. King Louis XVI had a Sun-Jupiter conjunction in Leo. So yeah, he was a Leo. He didn't have Leo rising. He was a Virgo, but he did have Leo rising. He did have the Sun in Leo, and I don't think we can say that his Sun was on Regulus because of precession. I mean, it looks as if his Sun is on Regulus, but you have to remember that he was born in 1754. So that means that his Sun would not have been on Regulus because of precession. But still, Pluto moving into Aquarius was not in the end good for him. I suppose with Pluto going into Aquarius, it kind of undermined him, didn't it? Because with Pluto moving into Aquarius, that was the time when France was financing the American revolutionaries. And of course, there is a theory that the reason the American Revolution worked was because of French money. But in the process, France there is a view, it bankrupted itself. And because of the financial crisis caused perhaps by the support for the colonists, it contributed to the French Revolution. The country ran out of money. And so that's Louis XVI's chart. And yeah, so Pluto going into Aquarius was not particularly good for him. And you might want to compare his chart with the chart of his execution. And so let's do the comparison. So Louis the 16th was executed on June the 21st, 1793, I think. So let's just compare the two. Louis XVI with his with his execution by the guillotine. And so there you see, but on the day he was executed, or pretty close to the day he was executed, Pluto was opposition Uranus, and that Pluto was, again, it was moving towards an opposition of his Sun, and Mars was at 28 Aquarius, again moving towards. Mars was pretty much conjunct his Sun, so that Mars was really triggering everything. And so, this is perhaps how we need to start to see Pluto in Aquarius. People having questions about authority. What right does anyone have to rule? And I thought it was interesting that we had that attempted military coup in South Korea, and pretty much at the same time as Emmanuel Macron was having all sorts of trouble forming a government. He's still having trouble forming a government. And Emmanuel Macron, he's not a Leo, but he's clearly someone who takes himself very seriously. He's not just a president. I mean, he's often described as being Jupiter. And so here is Emmanuel Macron's. There's Emmanuel Macron's chart. So, no planets in Leo. He does have Mars in Leo, though. So there is a certain Leo sense there too. I mean, he has had Pluto crossing his ascendant quite recently, and so he's an example of someone who takes himself seriously, who's kind of ruled by Leo. I mean, I know he's not a Leo, but Pluto moving into Aquarius suggests to me that people like Emmanuel Macron are under threat, because Pluto in Aquarius doesn't appreciate people like him taking themselves too seriously. And it was so interesting that Emmanuel Macron fell. No, he didn't fall, did he? But it was Assad that fell. Another president that goes. But Emmanuel Macron is under a lot of pressure, and I do think Pluto moving into Aquarius, the anti-Leo sign. Remember that Aquarius is anti-Leo, and so I do think that Pluto moving into Aquarius has possibly made life even more difficult for him. People aren't going to take people like him too seriously. And of course there is Bashar Assad, who fell in beginning of this month, quite soon after Pluto moved into Aquarius. So I do think that there is a sense of that. I'm wondering also whether it's not just about people in charge politically, but it may be, I suppose, captains of industry, people not being impressed anymore. I mean, I'm thinking perhaps of, even the assassination of Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. Again, he was not a Leo. I mean, he had his Mars in Leo, like Emmanuel Macron. I mean, here is his chart. I don't really want to spend too much time on his chart, but he was he was actually a Cancerian. But I mean, like Macron, he had Mars in Leo, but he was a business leader, and people aren't impressed anymore. And people with power and authority are under threat. And I was thinking also, in terms of Pluto in Aquarius, about this struggle for control and the struggle for power. And I think that by the time Pluto moves out of Aquarius, we may be into some kind of RoboCop kind of world. And those that have, those that don't have, because what's going to happen as a result of Brian Thompson being assassinated is other executives of insurance companies, and perhaps business leaders in general. I mean, I do believe that Pluto moving into Aquarius is going to, in the end, bring about a situation where political assassinations are going to be more common. I think that is likely, particularly as we move towards the Jupiter-Saturn opposition in 2029. And so what would happen is that people like Brian Thompson are going to realize that they can't just live ordinary lives. They're going to have heavy security. And so it's going to be them and us, and everyone is going to be under threat. And so that's Pluto in Aquarius. The divisions in society are going to be even stronger. And I think that's going to be one effect of Brian Thompson's killing. And when we talk about Pluto in Leo, I can't help thinking about Meghan. I mean, I haven't been talking about Meghan quite so much, but Meghan is clearly someone who has airs and graces, who takes herself very seriously, who thinks she's special. And I would have thought that someone like Meghan, and so I suppose Harry to an extent as well, they're not really in keeping with the times in which we are living, with Pluto moving into Aquarius. Pluto moving into Aquarius is not going to be impressed by titles. There's no sense in which people can just be famous because they're famous. I think Pluto in Aquarius will resent that. And I think if we look at Meghan's chart, she obviously has Leo. Well, no, she's got the Sun in Leo, and she's got Mercury in Leo. She's actually got Cancer rising. But she's got the North Node at 1 degree 39 Leo, and she's got the South Node at 1 degree 39 Aquarius. And so she's got Pluto crossing into Aquarius. Pluto, in the end, will make an opposition to her Sun in Leo. And so maybe she's already starting to feel it, particularly with that Pluto hitting her South Node. And that does put her under pressure. And I think that perhaps is a reminder that she doesn't have perhaps the authority and pulling power that she used to have. Pluto in Aquarius, I don't think is favourable for people like Meghan. And so really what I was trying to say, and perhaps I went on too long about it, is simply that we should see Pluto in Aquarius as being the anti-Leo. And I think at the end of the 18th century, with Britain losing the Revolutionary War, and you think about what people were thinking about in at the time of the Revolutionary War, people wanted to get rid of the king. And I think with Pluto in Aquarius now, again, people want to get rid of the king, or whoever claims to be a king, whoever behaves like a king, whoever throws their weight around, whoever thinks they're special. Pluto in Aquarius has something to say about that. And I think that might be just a way of thinking about Pluto moving through this sign. Anyway, that's enough astrology. And what I want to do now is look at the I Ching. So I consulted the I Ching and I asked what the week ahead is going to be like, the week starting on December the 16th, on a Monday. And this reading is only for those watching the I Ching section of this video, which is about to start. So if you don't want your I Ching read, you can just stop watching the video now. Anyway, so here's the question I asked. What is the week starting on Monday, December the 16th going to be like for those watching the I Ching section of this video? And the first hexagram I got was hexagram number 50, which is the cauldron. So I'm going to start by looking at this hexagram from a general perspective. So the cauldron represents a pot, obviously, but not just any pot. It's a sort of sacrificial pot, maybe a ritual pot. It's something of special significance. And perhaps when we think about cauldrons, we think about magic and we think about alchemy. We put things together and we try to create something new. And at the same time, the cauldron may represent everything that we are. All of our talents, our skills, our abilities, we're putting it together and we're trying to make the most of it all. And that is certainly something we really can do. And in the process, something quite magical might happen. We might find that something new develops. I suppose in terms of alchemy, we're trying to change lead into gold. Perhaps we're looking for some kind of emergent property of everything we are. And this hexagram has got two moving lines. The bottom line moves and the second from the bottom line moves. And with the bottom line moving, there is an indication perhaps that there is perhaps a blockage. Something needs to be cleaned out, and the symbol we have is like turning the cauldron upside down to remove whatever it is. And so this may represent a transition from the old to the new, which we're trying to carry out. And in that transition, certain things have to be removed. Maybe bad habits, things that we no longer need, things that are just preventing ourselves from really expressing ourselves as we should be. So it may be that in the run up to the solstice, we need to do some cleaning and be honest about it. Some things really have fulfilled their useful purpose, and then the second line moves, and the second line is about what we have and our virtues, what makes us special. And we are not going to lose it. We shouldn't be afraid of losing it. If something really is ours, it can't be taken away from us. And there is perhaps an indication that some people might be jealous of us. And we might notice that some people are jealous, but we shouldn't be worried because it can't be taken away from us. And there's also an indication here with that second line that if we're in a conflict situation, that our enemies may not be in a particularly good position. And this hexagram, because it's got two moving lines, it transitions to hexagram number 30, which is the clinging. And the clinging represents something we should be holding on to very tightly. It's something that is important to us. But it's actually quite fiery as well, because the symbol of this hexagram is fire over fire. The top three lines, you can see that the top three lines and the bottom three lines, they're the same. The two trigrams are repeating. And so we do have a sense of sun over sun, the sun rising twice. And perhaps it is our own fire and we need to hold on to it. And so perhaps in terms of that alchemy that has taken place in the cauldron, something new has developed, and it's something very special to us, but it is something perhaps we haven't fully experienced before, because there is a sense of a change of regime happening, and so we need to hold on very tightly to it. It really does matter. Now, looking at the I Ching from the perspective of money, I think the week ahead may actually not be too bad with the cauldron as the first hexagram. So, in terms of money, there are certainly things we can do to make ourselves feel more comfortable, and at the same time, maybe something needs to be changed. Perhaps we're not making the most of our resources. And with the cauldron, we need to make sure that everything is well balanced and it's all has to be in order. And I mean, I suppose we're coming into this reading, with different priorities. And I mean, some people might have a lot of money, be comfortable with money. Others might be very worried about money. I mean, it all depends. But with that first line, remember the first line of this cauldron is about a blockage, and it's also about a change of regime. So in terms of money, it does seem that something needs to change, that maybe you need to do a clear out, and you need perhaps to think about all of the pressures on you to spend money. And so if there is a blockage, that could represent something which is a drain on your money. And I suppose if you're thinking about a cauldron, that something has to be cleaned out, it may be about something draining from the cauldron, something leaking from the cauldron even. That is possible, but it's a situation that you can resolve. So don't assume that things can't change, and if other people are pressurizing you to spend money or thinking maybe you owe them money, you don't have to take them seriously. Okay, sometimes you really do owe someone money and you have to pay it, but I think it's a situation where there are just things that are making your financial life more difficult, and things that are unnecessary. Because if you're in a new regime, then some things have to go. And then the second line also moves, and so with the second line moving, it's kind of saying that if there is any sense of dispute, or perhaps someone might be jealous of you, or they might feel that you owe them something, you don't have to worry about it, because what truly belongs to you is yours, and no one has any claim on it. So I suppose it's possible that some people might try to make you feel guilty about holding on to your money. I mean, that is possible, but you know what your money is. You know that it belongs to you, and the cauldron is basically saying that you don't have to worry. You're going to be able to keep your money. If you believe it's yours, it is yours. And so I think that should be quite reassuring. And the cauldron with these two moving lines, it moves to a separate hexagram, which is the clinging. And again, it is about holding on to your money. And also with the clinging, I suppose, it's about looking after something. The clinging is not just about the fire, it's also about a cow, and it's about looking after your cattle, looking after your belongings, and making sure everything is in good order. So it's not like you can be completely complacent and just assume money will just sort itself out. But if you are concerned about money, just protecting your own resources and also nurturing your own resources, I think that is important. And if you take that kind of approach and you just accept that your resources are special, they don't belong to anyone else, and perhaps you are there to safeguard your own resources, and I think that is something that you are going to be able to do. Turning to career and business, if this is relevant to you, then the first hexagram is the cauldron, and the cauldron is really indicating how wonderful you are, how you have these abilities. There's something special about what you can put out, and I think there's almost something unique about it. There are things you can do that really no one else can do, and okay, it may require a little bit of organization, and perhaps even a little bit of alchemy. Perhaps you have a couple of skills which, on the surface, don't seem to have any connection with each other. It may not be just skills, it might be contacts. I suppose in terms of career and business, contacts can be important. And I suppose sometimes you don't realize how important someone else could be in terms of helping you. But with the cauldron, you really can bring everything you are together, and I think that is really going to help you in terms of your work or your business, whatever you're trying to do. But it may be also that some things have to go, because the bottom line of the hexagram does move, and there is an indication here of something new happening. The old is over, the new is about to begin, and things from the past aren't perhaps useful anymore. And so there may be certain activities or habits or associations which aren't doing you any good in the sense of career and business, but it's okay. You just need to clear things out. So in the run-up to the solstice, because we have the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere, at least at the end of the week. I suppose it's kind of the summer solstice if you're in the southern hemisphere. But in that run-up, it's time to create some changes, to clear things out, and I think that that's something you can do, and I think you can do it very, very successfully. And I suppose sometimes when you're talking about career, and I suppose especially business, there can be rivalry, can't there? I mean, you've got people that may be competing for a job, or competing for a business, or competing for someone's attention. And if there is any rivalry, it does seem that you're going to be the winner, particularly if it's a situation where the best person wins, where it's a sense of something quite meritocratic. The person who has the most to offer, the best to offer, the best deal, whatever it is, that's the person who's going to win. And it does seem that you are going to win. And so don't get too worried about the competition, because if you are the best, the universe will make sure that I think that you really are able to win out. So also don't feel that anything can be taken away from you. I mean, it's obvious that you have certain abilities and you do something better than other people. So don't get too worked up about it. And then, because we've got two moving lines, we move to a different hexagram, and we move to 30, which is hexagram 30, which is the clinging. And it's quite a powerful hexagram. I mean, part of the clinging is, I suppose, nurturing what you're good at, nurturing what you have. And also, it's about brightness. It's about the light being on you. And so you might be worried, perhaps, that you're not getting enough attention, that people are not going to appreciate what you can do. But I don't think you need to be worried about this. I think that it's very clear who you are and what you can do. And yeah, the spotlight is on you, and I think that it is a time in terms of your career and business when you can be appreciated, and people will understand that you can offer something very unique. So it's certainly not a time to be hiding your light under a bushel or anything like that. You need to be out there proclaiming what you can do, but not in a way that is boastful. It's just obvious, and people will just naturally recognize it. And finally, we look at relationships. And with relationships, the first hexagram is hexagram 50, which is the cauldron. And I suppose many relationships, particularly the important relationships, may actually be in a process of change. Things are transforming under the surface, and I mean, this could work out in several directions. It may be that things are transforming in such a way that you're outliving certain relationships because you've moved on. You understand who you are and what you can do, and perhaps certain people just aren't particularly supportive. But the cauldron may actually represent something happening between you and another person, that connections are being formed. It may be that you are getting involved with a person who may on the surface have nothing to do with you. There may be big differences, and it might not seem obvious that there is any chemistry. But the cauldron actually is about chemistry. I suppose the first chemists were alchemists, weren't they? Or many of the first chemists. And so perhaps you and another person's relationship can alter in a quite dramatic way over the course of a week, and you start to see connections that didn't exist before. And so the question then is, how would that happen? Well, I think honesty is important because the bottom line moves, and the bottom line is about clearing out garbage, clearing out things that are maybe blocking a relationship. So if you are in a relationship that's important to you and it's not working, then that would indicate that there is something that needs to be cleared out, something perhaps needs to be talked about, something that needs to be removed, and you need to work out what it is. And I think that is something that you can do. And at the same time, with the second line moving, it's not about you having to change. You have to just be yourself. You don't have to compromise because you are in a good position. You are whole. I mean, you might sometimes be pushed to feel self-conscious. People might try to make you feel guilty about something, but you don't have to feel guilty about anything. You can be clear about who you are, and if someone really respects you, they will accept that. And the cauldron does move because we have two moving lines, and it moves to hexagram 30. Now, hexagram 30 might literally be the clinging. It may be that you and someone else have a connection, and it's about you and someone else clinging to each other. I don't mean clinging in a sort of weak kind of clingy kind of way. It's clinging in a way that, in a sense, that two things are attracted to one another. And so that might be how it works. But also, certain people need to be cultivated. And I think cultivation is an important part of the clinging. Using the light of your personality and your good nature to cultivate a relationship. And I think that is something you can do this week. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say. I told you it was going to be a short video. If you like this video, I'd be very grateful if you were to like it. If you're not subscribed and you like the video, I would be super grateful if you were to subscribe. And if you want to buy me a coffee, there is a link in the description. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, and I will talk to you again very soon.